Thank you again for inviting me here today. Um, as Brittany said, this is a topic I've been working on through my podcast, but also since about 2018, I've really been poring over the research from social science on how technology impacts our health and wellness. And because I'm an Orthodox psychologist, I've been reading relevant Orthodox sources as well. I've listened to my clients in my office, my family and friends, clergy and clergy wives, and in the last year and a half, the insightful guests on my podcast. I hear over and over again that people feel addicted to their phones and they don't know what to do about it. I hear priests say they feel they need to have an online presence in order to be an effective minister, but they're not sure how to be present online without getting in so deep they drown in the social media sinkhole. And I hear parents say they feel completely helpless and alone if they want to assert rules in their family that are counter to the current norms. But I've also found again and again, it's that the Orthodox Church offers many of the solutions to these struggles with tech use that the secular world is actually now starting to approximate. Last month, I presented at the OCA's Parish Development Forum with Father Andrew Yarmus, Dean of St. Mary's Cathedral in Minneapolis. Together, we thought through a brief model of how parishes can approach digital media with intention and stewardship. That model focuses on three specific themes: agency, discernment, and the common good. These are themes that have emerged from what I've learned from podcast guests as well as what we've read in the psychology research and in Orthodox sources. So I'm going to dig into this model with you today, and my hope is that by focusing on these three concepts, you will be equipped to approach the often overwhelming problems related to our digital lives with practical ideas, most of which come from our Orthodox faith. So the first is agency. This is our personal autonomy, our ability to act and think independently, make free choices, and exert control over our own lives. Now, I often hear people say, there's nothing inherently wrong with technology, it's just a tool. The phone, the computer, social media, AI, these are all just tools. Well, I used to agree with that, but I don't entirely anymore. Yes, they are tools, and I rely on them for my daily work as much as anyone else. But these tools are designed with the motives of corporate America and big tech in mind, and that is to make money, both through advertising directly to us and indirectly by using our data that we give sometimes freely, sometimes unknowingly to the tech companies. Literally every aspect of our technology has been designed to manipulate us into using it more and more. Millions of behavioral psychology research dollars went into understanding how to make our devices engaging and enticing. So we have to ask ourselves every time we pick up our smartphone or sit at our computers, are we using our tools or are our tools using us? Are we choosing intentionally what we want to watch on YouTube, or are we simply clicking what the algorithm thinks we ought to see? How often do we let an alert on our phone grab our attention away from what we're focusing on? Where is our choice? Where is our freedom? When we use our tech, it's imperative that we consider our own freedom and agency. As I mentioned, I am a clinical psychologist and I'm in private practice. I have talked with numerous parents who feel so helpless when it comes to their kids and technology. And by technology, I mean phone, computer, video games, all of it. Parents expressed to me feeling trapped and being held hostage by the tech in the house. There are arguments with their kids about whether to buy a phone or not, and if they buy it, how much time can they spend on it, and where are they allowed to use it, and what are they allowed to do on it. Almost everything about the phone or iPad or video game leads to a challenge, and the parents I've spoken to feel like there's no way to win. They don't feel a sense of agency in their parenting, And sadly, I've seen many a parent throw their hands up in defeat and submit their agency to the device. Does this sound familiar to you? As one of my podcast guests, Michelle Mujayas of Faith Tree Resources, said, we have to reclaim our agency. So, how do we do that? I believe we have to experience the sense of freedom and peace that comes with not using our tech for periods of time. I think reclaim our agency starts with fasting. And really, if there's one Orthodox practice that can easily be implemented today, it is fasting, and specifically digital fasting. As Orthodox Christians, we fast from certain foods on Wednesdays and Fridays and for longer periods of time throughout the year. Why do we fast? According to St. John Chrysostom, we fast to break our reliance on earthly things and to build our reliance on God. The food fasts are an integral part of our Orthodox spiritual life, and we can add a digital fast to our food fasts. Now, I am certainly not an authority to tell anyone here what to do in your spiritual lives, but thankfully, your Metropolitan Tikhon in his 2025 Lenten encyclical instructed clergy and faithful alike to do a digital fast. I'm not going to read these one by one because I am going to give you my slides, which includes the link to his full encyclical. But in a nutshell, Metropolitan Tikhon outlines reasonable guidelines for taking a break from your technology and social media during Lent. Metropolitan Tikhon also encourages that you replace your scrolling with a practice of silence, which I wish I had enough time to get into that today too. I do not. I'm going to focus on fasting. And I'll add, Dr. Jean-Claude Larcher, who's a French Orthodox theologian, has been calling for the church to prescribe fasts from digital media alongside the traditional food fast since at least 2018 when he gave a paper on the topic. His guidelines are even stricter than the Metropolitans. Larcher says no internet except for work or studies and abstain from all digital entertainment. He emphasizes that our engagement with digital media actually produces effects contrary to those sought by fasting and abstinence. In other words, according to Larcher, we're spinning our wheels. We skip the burger on Friday in favor of peanut butter, but if we eat that PBJ while scrolling mindlessly through our social media or news feeds, have we really even gained the benefit of that food fast? Right before Great Lent this year, Steve Christoforou, the executive director of Focus North America, came on the podcast and we had a great conversation about the hows and whys of digital fasting. His point is that fasting makes us uncomfortable, and it's in that discomfort that we can begin to move towards Christ if we replace our indulgences with prayer, silence, and with good works. Steve noted that we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's one of the more countercultural aspects of fasting, since we live in a world that caters to our every comfort and ease. Certainly, our technology does so much intellectual heavy lifting for us that giving it up, even for a short bit of time, will indeed be uncomfortable. We see the concept of a digital fast in the popular culture as well, because the science is there. Just as behavioral psychology was used to build all the enticing features of our tech, behavioral psychology can also be applied to help us reduce our tech use. There are many books on digital fasting or digital detoxing, decluttering. I've listed some of them here. Secular approaches to digital fasting vary a bit, but they all suggest that you set aside a clearly defined period of time to disconnect from optional technologies and then very intentionally and gradually add back in only what is truly necessary and aligned with your values. What these sources lack, though, is what the church teaches about fasting. Again, we fast to break our reliance on material things in order to increase our dependence on God. You won't find that benefit described in these books, but I think that's the aspect of digital fasting we need to be emphasizing as Orthodox Christians. So, we as individuals can reclaim our agency by taking intentional breaks from our tech. But what about your parish priest? What happens if he tries to do a digital fast? In June, I was given the honor of presenting to the OCA Clergy Synaxis on the same topic of digital discernment. When I brought up the idea of setting digital boundaries in order to not be tied to the phone 24/7, I could kind of feel the silence and disbelief wash over the Zoom screen. I think there's a pervasive unspoken belief that priests are obligated to always be available to their parishioners 24/7. But what other profession has this obligation? Doctors and therapists and others in caregiving professions have on-call rotations with their colleagues. When I go on vacation as a psychologist, I have a colleague take emergency calls for me. During the regular work week, I'm clear with clients that I will respond to non-urgent texts, calls, and emails during business hours. Why can't priests have similar limits? This may be a crazy idea, I know, but it's my professional opinion that we demand way too much of our priests, and those of you who are in parish leadership have an opportunity to really change the culture in your parish when it comes to how you treat your priest's time. And with that, I believe we have to encourage and support our priests in setting digital boundaries so that they can take a break from their phones too. Here's what I mean by digital boundaries. These are some examples that you could have for your parish priest, starting with setting business hours. These may not be 9 to 5 necessarily. Some flexibility is needed, but that's up to the priest, perhaps in consultation with his parish council to define. But he does deserve to have a cutoff time after which he will not answer a call or text until the next day, unless it's a true life or death emergency. Ask parishioners to keep texts brief, and if they need to express something lengthy, to make an appointment or request a phone call. I say texts in particular because those can feel more urgent and invasive, and the long ones often require considerable time and thought, often at inopportune and unplanned moments. Let parishioners know that when they call, email, or text with a non-urgent matter, the priest will do his best to get back to them within a certain reasonable amount of time. He decides what that is for him, maybe 24 hours or 48 hours. Not rushing to answer every communication as it comes in allows him to be fully present with his family or during a hospital visit or just to do deep work without feeling the pressure to be available immediately. Last but definitely not least, work with other priests and parishes in the area to set up an on-call rotation for emergencies or at least for vacations. Imagine that if parishes had an emergency referral list of area priests, then a priest could feel a bit more comfortable setting the first three boundaries. This would be a new system and require thoughtful planning, as well as agreement and commitment from everyone, bishops, parishioners, and of course the priests themselves. But we are seeing an alarming rate of clergy burnout, and one solution is to reduce the unreasonable demands on their time that is caused by constant digital access. Now, one of the workshop exercises I've given you to take back to your parish is to think through what structures you would need to have in place in your parish in order to make all of this happen, while still addressing your parishioners' needs too, and have appropriate options for them. I submit to you that it is worth thinking through and creating a plan for how you can protect your priest's time, and in so doing, protect his health and wellness. The potential positive impact of this would benefit both his family and the parishioners themselves. The second theme is discernment. Admittedly, I chose the title of my podcast, Digital Discernment, because I thought it sounded catchy. But after interviewing two priests about the Orthodox understanding of discernment, I realized that this title is truly what we need to be considering with regards to technology. Or if in Orthodox tradition, discernment is far richer than simply choosing between right and wrong. It is a deep and demanding spiritual discipline cultivated over time through ascetic practices and accountability to a spiritual father. Father Panagiotis Bosnos explained in my interview with him that the fathers described discernment as the ability to see what is truly there, to perceive reality truthfully, and to judge between things rightly. He quoted St. John of the Ladder, who said, "Discernment is a solid understanding of the will of God in all places, times, and things." Father Michael Tischel was almost poetic when we spoke, as he described discernment as a gift of sight within the fog of war. He said we have to realize that we are in a fog of war created by confusing, distracting, tempting digital media. We need to then turn humbly to God for clarity. Furthermore, Orthodox discernment is communal. As Father Panagiotis explained, a spiritual father who truly knows you can discern for you what is best for your spiritual life. So discernment isn't only a private interior process, it's practiced alongside one who is more spiritually mature than you. Applied to technology, this all means we are not simply asking, is this app good or bad? We are asking, is my behavior or what I'm seeing within an app bringing me closer to God's will for my life? Am I seeking virtue or vice with my online activities? And furthermore, how does my behavior impact my neighbor? As Dr. Roxanne Lowe said in her podcast interview, what am I inviting into the heart of someone else with my post? Regarding parish life, we have to discern when we ought to meet people where they are online or resist feeding the beast. When it comes to using social media in ministry, especially with youth. This is one of the most practically urgent questions in ministry today, in my opinion. And I want to resist the temptation right now to give you a simple answer because there isn't one, but I do have a few ideas about it. I do think there's a very good argument to be made for meeting people where they are. Think about the incarnation. This is exactly what God did, right? He met us where we're at with his only begotten Son. He entered into our condition. And meeting people where they are can reflect genuine pastoral love by going to where the lost sheep actually are, not waiting for them to find their way back to the fold on their own. But we also have to be concerned that this meeting not become conformity to the cultural norm of the day. As Orthodox Christians, we are taught to be in the world, but not of it. And that is a distinction that digital culture makes extraordinarily difficult to maintain because the social media platforms, they're not passive conduits of information. The algorithms shape the way we think and feel. You cannot simply use Instagram the way you use the parish bulletin board. It uses you back. So, some questions to consider when discerning your parish's online presence. First, do a thorough review of your parish's website. What is needful? What is unnecessary? How are you portraying yourselves as a parish community on social media? In my interview with Father Nicholas Lowe, he encouraged parishes to consider what is unique about your parish that could be helpful to the general public. Maybe your pastor is gifted at sermons. Maybe you have youth or educational programming that is beneficial. What can you discern to offer people where they're at with intention and love? Also, think about how the content you're creating may feed the beast. Is it highly charged to fuel debate in some way? Would your bishop approve of what you're posting? Some discussions must occur in person in order to be fruitful. I actually recall hearing Father Thomas Hopko speak about this many, many years ago. And he made a similar point, and this was long before social media was even a thing. Sometimes when you have to speak the truth in love about something challenging, a personal conversation, face to face and one on one, is far better than putting something out online. Also, it's my professional opinion that we should not be creating YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, or any short form video because the research is clear. It is killing our attention spans. Don't do it. As Father Andrew Yarmouth said, we have to be okay with disappointing the algorithm. And I do believe that is a good guiding principle for your social media. Now, the third theme is the common good, that which is shared and beneficial to most members of a community. We're not lone monks in the desert managing our screen time. We are parishes, families, ministry teams, we're communities. And what I want to share now is specific to the youth in your parish. Jonathan Haidt, author of The Anxious Generation, speaks of collective action, where small groups of parents decide on common norms regarding smartphones for their children so that no parent feels like the bad guy and no kid feels left out. Haidt's call for collective action, I think, translates remarkably well into an Orthodox parish context because the church already has a theology of collective action. We talk about conciliarity and building up the body of Christ. What do these mean if not working together for the common good through collective action? When a community moves together, the social dynamic shifts entirely. If parents can come together and agree on new norms that fit the values of those families, presumably those taught by the church, then those become the norms. Parents claim their agency, discern what's best for their children, and the parish supports these efforts for the common good. Here's how I would envision a parish collective action process. First, start with why. Why does a collective action plan matter? Not because screens are evil, but because we believe the human person is made for union with God and with one another. And we take seriously the evidence that certain uses of technology are obstructing that union for our children. So I suggest gather people together for a conversation that establishes why a collective action plan that reduces screen time for children is so important. I have a video to share with you to illustrate that exact point.
Hey, kiddo, it's about time for bed, okay?
Okay.
Well, remember, there's a box in the corner over there with all the pornographic material that's
Oh, sorry.
ever been made in the world, even the really weird stuff that could scar you for life. I'm trusting you not to look in there, okay?
Okay.
Ah, sorry.
Feelings are for losers. Oh, and this guy's gonna be in your corner all night, just randomly spewing out hateful things. Just ignore him, okay? While I'm thinking of it, there's an order form on your desk where you can purchase illegal drugs. The mean girls from your school are gonna be standing there talking about you all night. And this Russian hacker's gonna keep asking for your password. I'm not a hacker. Amazon customer service. Just need you to ignore him, okay? Love you, buddy. We ask too much of our kids when we give them a smartphone. Let's change the norm. Together.
Maybe we go around the room and share social security numbers.
Join the movement at smartphonefreechildhoodus.com.
Yeah, I'll get it anyway.
I want to say this video is an exaggeration, but if we're honest, we will admit it's absolutely not. So start with why. Then talk together as a group rather than asking the priest or a committee to write up a plan. This may mean multiple conversations. What are we seeing in our children? What are we experiencing ourselves? What are we willing to commit to together? This process itself is an act of communal discernment, and it models for our children what life in the body of Christ actually looks like. Gathering together is an opportunity to address concerns and generate ideas. You could invite a speaker to address the topic, or you could watch any of the many resources available, including Jonathan Haidt's many YouTube videos, or dare I say, and here's my shameless plug, You could listen together to episodes of Digital Discernment, which all come with a discussion guide, and you could find those on Substack. Make the agreement specific. A collective action agreement specifies elements like the ones Jonathan Haidt suggests. No phones before high school, no social media until age 16, and more free play. Within the church community, you might add no smartphones at parish gatherings, including during Sunday school and youth group, and you might consider together a regular rhythm of digital fasting. The beauty of approaching this as a parish is that we already have the practices like fasting, prayer, discernment that support exactly this kind of approach together. We're not inventing something new, we're applying something ancient to a very new challenge. We've covered a lot of ground today. I'm sorry, I'm a little over time, but I want to leave you with this. As you continue thinking about agency, discernment, and the common good in your own and your parish's digital life, I'd like to quote the wonderful Dr. Ann Bezarides of the Crossroad Institute, who said, "Life lived in the digital world won't quench a thirsty soul." So I'll leave you with that. I hope that adds to your motivation and resolve. Thank you again for having me here today.